Next Thursday, Clacton goes to the polls. Nigel Farage resigned his seat so he could stand again. The main parties all ran away, so the ballot paper now features Farage, a man in a bin costume, Kai Stevens, and some old Tory boomer who still thinks 1992 was peak Britain. This is not a serious selection. This is just another political theatre, and people of Clacton are the pros. They get to turn up, put cross on the box, and feel like they did something while the real power structure carries on untouched. The cameras will be there. The headlines will be written. The result is already decided. Only the margin is in question. You've seen this movie all before. The politician under pressure over money and donations. He then resigns, he forces a by-election and calls it the people versus the establishment. As I've covered in my previous video on Farage, where he did this in UKIP, where he basically just got into power and virtually ended up quitting, or known as a quitter, the establishment refuses to turn up. The whole thing turns into a circus with novelty candidates and protest votes. Nothing really serious going on there. This is exactly what is happening in Clacton on the 13th of August. Farage triggered it himself after weeks of scrutiny over undeclared gifts and financial agreements. Labour, the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, and even Restore Britain all refused to stand. They called this all a stunt, a PR stunt just for clout and money. They are not wrong. So the voters are left with Farage, Count Binface in a literal bin, Kai Stevens, and a handful of other independents, including at least one old Tory boomer still fighting the last war. 34 candidates in total, a record number actually. Most of them will get almost nothing. This is what passes for democracy when the system is broken and the only real choice on offer is between a career populist and a man wearing a literal metal bin on his head. The people of Clacton did not ask for this. They are being used as the backdrop for someone else's political survival. Farage resigned as Clacton MP in early July. He was under growing pressure over his financial affairs. As I've covered previously, there are a large gift from a crypto donor from Thailand that has not been properly declared. There was the security-supported link to a convicted fraudster. Parliamentary standards processes were underway. The media was there, questions were being asked that he did not want to keep answering. Instead of waiting for those processes to finish, he quit and forced a by-election so he could run again. He framed it as taking the fight to the people. He said the voters of Clacton should be the ones to judge him, not the establishment or the media. He called it people versus the establishment contest. In reality, it was a classic reset move. Resign, force a contest, get a fresh mandate, and change the story from Farage under investigation to Farage wins again. The main party saw the trap immediately. They knew they would lose badly in Clacton. They knew standing would give him exactly the fight and the headlines he wanted, so they walked away and left the field clear. When the highest profile challenger ends up being a man in a bin costume, the election has already told you everything you need to know about how seriously the system takes itself. It is not treating Clacton as a real constituency with real problems. It is treating it as a stage for one man's political survival. The voters become actors in everyone else's drama. Look at what is actually on the ballot. Count Binface is standing, a novelty candidate in a metal bin who has made a career out of turning up at these contests for laughs and a protest vote. He's not there to govern. He's there to mock the process and collect the votes of people who completely given up on the main parties. Kai Stevens is also on the list. They also have a string of independents, including old conservative types who still believe the answer is more of the same centre-right management that got us into this mess in the first place. These are the people who spent years managing the clan, opening the borders, and telling you that everything was fine. Now they turn up as independents offering the same soft solutions that failed last time. Most of them will get a handful of votes at best. The result is already being written. Farage will win comfortably. The bin will pick up a chunk of protest and meme energy and probably come second or third. Everyone else will be noise. This is not a contest of ideas. It is not a protest or a debate about immigration numbers, two-tier policing, housing shortages, or demographic future of the country. It is a pressure release valve. Farage gets to look the outsider fighting the system. The system gets to look like it is above the circus by refusing to take part. The voters get to feel like they did something meaningful while nothing fundamentally changes. That is the real function of this by-election. So what does this all mean? When the main parties refuse to stand, they're admitting two things at once. First, they do not want to legitimise Farage by losing him again in a high-profile contest. Second, they know Clacton is not going to vote for them no matter what they say, so they will leave the field to a bin, a few independents, and Farage himself. That is not strength, that is contempt for the voters. It treats Clacton as a stage for Farage's personal drama rather than a real place with real people who have watched their town change, their services drained, and their concerns dismissed for years. The people who live there still have to deal with the same pressures on housing, schools, GP appointments, and community cohesion that every other high migration area faces. None of that is on the ballot in any meaningful way. Meanwhile, Farage gets exactly what he wanted: a clean win, a fresh mandate, another round of "the people have spoken" in quote headlines. And the underlying problems remain completely untouched. Mass immigration continues, two-tier policing continues, demographic change continues, the Union Party continues to manage the decline while arguing about the optics. This is a safety valve game in its purest form. Like the pressure bill staged a dramatic by-election, let people vote for a man in a bin or an old Tory boomer who still thinks the 1990s were the answer, then carry on exactly as before. The faces change, the data changes, the direction of the country does not. That is the real lesson of Clacton. When you're serious about being a proper career populist under investigation and a literal bin, the system is telling you no longer takes the public seriously. It's just managing you, not representing you. It is giving a performance so you do not demand anything real. So when it comes out to the Clacton by-election on Thursday, Farage will win, probably. The bin will get its memes and protest votes. The old Tory boomer will get a few hundred from people still living in 1992. Guy Stevens will probably have a hissy fit and join the NRP in a fit of rage like he did with Herman Party, and the rest will just be footnotes. And nothing that actually matters will change. The same problems will still be there on Friday morning, the same people will still be in charge of the direct travel, the circus will simply move on the next act. This is how the game goes. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about, and obviously it sounds very negative in this video, about the Clacton by-election on next Thursday. And I do think that whether who wins, and I doubt Kai Stevens will win, even though I want him to, because obviously, despite all the other people and his past, it's probably better than nothing than having some old Tory boomer who still thinks it's 1992, and us to with a literal guy who has dresses as a bin with a literal fucking cape. It really just shows how demented and deranged and insane UK politics has now become. And because of this, I do think that all the things that have come from this Clacton by-election, like I said, it'll probably amount to nothing. Even the big main parties are probably not going to bother. And because of this, I think that it really just shows how broken UK politics is. Hopefully, eventually, we actually do get something serious, but until then, I do think that this Clacton election is basically just a nothing bagger. And like I said, there isn't much to it, but hopefully, maybe something that would be a better turnout than someone like Farage or a Baneface. And as well, if you want to go on a link in the description with links to my other channels and Discord as well.